Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 26 of The Captain's Heart. And I forgot to. Jeremy felt eyes on him as he headed for the door to the section of the station he crossed to reach the dock where the Kelsirian ship was. The section he never saw anyone in. The section where Quirk had his quarters. Okay, this is going to be a different paragraph. They knew what he had in his tool bag. Once the pill had taken effect and he'd been able to think again, he'd known he needed to tell someone about what he'd found. He'd almost called Omar, but realized how stupid that was in time. With how he felt about the Kelsirians, plural. Just looking at the naked picture drawn by Jeremy would send him on the warpath. None of his friends would understand. It wasn't like there was anyone on the station who'd get it. Only, he realized, there was one person who, at the very least, wouldn't freak out at seeing drawings of Kelsirian men. And he'd almost rushed out, drawing in hand, only to realize he had no idea where Quirk's quarters were. And as he focused on solving that, realized he needed to put the drawing into something. And the puzzle box made the most sense, since it was where they came from. Then he'd taken the tools, plural again, the tools out of his bag and put the box in that, because without taking the time to lock it again, it would lead to too many questions on the way. It bulged, but that could be explained as too many tools. Finding where Quirk stayed had been as easy as looking up his name in the registry, the phonetic pronunciation of his name. He was in the unoccupied section of the station. He made his way through the door without anyone stopping him, without anyone demanding to know what he was doing with those abominations, without asking what was wrong with him. Once the door closed, he was able to breathe again. But fear set back in as he walked along the corridor. The sense he was heading towards something not right filled him, and only settled slightly when he looked over his shoulder at where he'd come from and saw doors after doors along the wall and the one he'd entered through in the distance. Each step forward left him feeling like the station was about to open under him and reveal he didn't know what. He turned into the corridor leading to the ambassador's quarter, and most of the mounting dread vanished. So suddenly, Jeremy wondered if he'd actually felt anything. The corridor became more elegant. The walls were pale green instead of the metal gray. Of metal gray, the ceiling pale blue, and the floor in reddish brown. Potted plants had been added, and there was a smell of vegetation that made him think they were real. The doors were spaced further apart. Quirk's quarter had a plaque by the door with Kelsirian ambassador written in it in a variety of language, only English being the one he understood. The door opened as Jeremy reached for the button to announce his presence, and he stared at his smiling Quirk. "Jeremy, welcome." He stepped aside and motioned. Jeremy stepped in, still not over the surprise. "Were you heading out?" He took in how the Kelsirian was dressed and wasn't sure what to think. All he had on were loose pants held in place by a wide belt that sunk deep enough into the fur to nearly vanish. They stood in a large living room with thick gray-green carpet. The chairs were large and plushed, and there were large plants. You know what? I don't need large again. And there were plants in pots like those in the corridor. Through a door, he saw a circular bed, and through another, a food preparation area. "It isn't important. What can I do for you?" Craig said, pulling Jeremy's attention to him. He still smiled, seemed eager even. Do? Right. He'd come here with a purpose. He took the box out of the tool bag and presented it. What do you know about that? You told me it's a puzzle box from your childhood. He answered, amused. Not the box, Jeremy snapped. What's in it? Snapped. What's in it? He jerked away as Craig reached for his arm, and the Kelsirian stepped back, puzzled. I'm afraid you didn't tell me. Then look! He shoved the box in Craig's hands, and the Kelsirian looked it over, trying to slide the cover. With a huff of annoyance, Jeremy moved the slide that had shifted in transport, and Craig took the cover off. He placed the box on the table next to the closest seat and pulled the papers from it, turning the stack over. You still use paper? For art, when I was a kid. Just look at them. Craig flipped through and pulled one out. Pulled out one. Is this your home? He showed Jeremy the drawing of his parents' house. Yes, but it doesn't matter. He stepped toward and tapped the top page. The one with the naked Kelsirian man. Tell me about that. Quarrick studied the drawing without showing expression. I'm not knowledgeable in what makes drawings good, understand, but other than some obvious inaccuracies, this seems quite good to me. Good? Jimmy asked, dismayed. Yes. I mean, Kelsirian penises don't look like that, but you said you drew this as a child, so I expect you didn't have access to... Are you fucking insane? Jimmy demanded once he overcame the surprise of the casual mention of genitalia. You don't find out a kid drew that and just be okay with it. Why wouldn't I? They're men. Quarrick smiled, quite obviously. Don't smile. What was wrong with Quarrick? You know what? Him will work. What was wrong with him? The smile vanished, but the Kelsirian still seemed amused. Jeremy, I don't understand your distress. Without taking his eyes off Jeremy, he moved the page onto the stack, then glanced down, looked at Jeremy, and then at the drawing again. And Jeremy readied himself for the verbal assault, if not a physical one. So you did know, Quarrick whispered, smiling. What? How was he still smiling, looking at that abomination? You seem to enjoy yourself. The Kelsirian turned the page so Jeremy saw, but he swatted at it before he made it out fully, ripping part of the paper. No, that's not me. It can't be me. Look, you look younger, Jeremy, but I recognize you. You are quite skilled. No, I'm not sick. Do you hear me? They thought I was, but I got tested and it's just stress. Jeremy, you aren't sick. There's nothing wrong with you. Quarrick showed him the drawing again as Jeremy's breathing eased with the confirmation he was fine. This is normal. Jeremy's stomach tied itself into a knot. What? He reached for it in his pocket, but the pills weren't there. How could he have... Don't touch me! He snarled as Quarrick reached for him. Breathe, Jeremy. Call on the box. It's going to... Is that what you've been doing to me? You're trying to make me sick? How did you get that in my things? How did you mimic how I drew? That... And that explained why he had no memory of drawing them. It's him, isn't it? Growler put you up to this. And that's why he's been bothering me all the fucking time. He's sick and you want me to be sick too. What is fucking wrong with you people? What the fuck did I do to any of you for you to do that to me? Oh, it's a good thing it's dialogue. Jeremy, Quarrick said in a neutral tone that put him on edge. I don't know what you've been told, but this is entirely normal. Every species has. Fuck you, he snarled. Fuck you for making me think you were someone nice. But that's all you want, isn't it? To make us all sick, like you. He headed for the door and slammed his palm on the control. Go fuck yourselves, since you like that so much. He stormed through the corridor, the lifts, and then the living deck and into his room. How could they do that to him? He threw his empty tool bag across the room and took a pill before heading for the shower. He'd never felt so dirty. His steps slowed. He'd never noticed it before, but there was a corridor before the forest started. How could he have noticed it before? He'd never been here until now, had he? There was something ahead. Danger. Was it? He wasn't sure, but he was worried, scared. He couldn't decide if he should continue. He had something to do, hadn't he? Or turn around. Safety. The thing behind him crooned, return to safety. Jeremy wasn't sure. The roar came from far ahead. The roar came from far ahead, made Jeremy's bone shake. He knew that if he continued, nothing would ever be the same. That thing in the distance would undo him, make him something else. Safe. Tendril caressed his back, oozed over his shoulder. Come back. We keep you safe. Keep you the same. The same, yes. There was nothing wrong with him the way he was. Jeremy stepped back into the oozing mass, and it took him in, whispering promises of safety and sameness. Jeremy felt like his bed wouldn't let go of him. Sitting took almost more effort than he could manage. He didn't understand why he felt so drained. It was the first morning. He checked the clock. It was morning. He didn't remember waking from a nightmare, so he should be more awake. He stumbled to the shower, dropping his boxers on the way, and shocked himself to a semblance of wakefulness under cold water. Once he was washed and dried, and he had coffee with his breakfast. Putting that away, he realized the drafting table was still off. He cursed. He'd never set the circuits to be printed last night. Why the fuck couldn't he have done that as soon as he'd gotten to his room? Now he wouldn't have what he needed to work on the ship. His stomach rebelled, and he took a pill. Fuck it. He took his tablet and found he had no way to contact Turok. He didn't even know if their communication networks were compatible. He contacted the one place he could think of that could relay the message. Command, a man answered. This is Jeremy Bradshaw. I'm the engineer who's repairing the... I know who you are, Jeremy. William? Now he recognized the voice. They have you on night shift? Yeah, ending in half an hour. What do you need? I need you to have someone contact the Kelsirian ship and tell them I'm not coming in today. I need the day off. Jeremy ended the call. He wasn't letting anyone tell him no today. Jeremy didn't exactly feel better sitting at the table, indulging in salted caramel swirl ice cream at 9 in the morning, but he definitely felt like he was in control of his life, for once. He knew that feeling was irrational, but he didn't care. If he came across as a child today, that was for other people to deal with, not him. Mr. Bradshaw? Commander Jackson greeted Jeremy sitting opposite him. He stared at the man, spoon in his mouth, not able to swallow. Care to explain what you are doing? He swallowed and took the spoon out, taking the day off. I see. How did you know I was here? Communication to the cat's ship have to be approved by me. Even Queric? The raised eyebrow made Jeremy feel like when his father caught him with his hand in a box of cookies, reaching for the last one. The ambassador doesn't fall under my authority. You do. Good for him. What is your problem, Mr. Bradshaw? Jeremy stared. Do you have any idea what kind of people Kelsirians are? The commander smiled. I have researched the cats thoroughly. So he knew. That made sense. The men could have warned him they were all sick. Yeah, well, I just found out last night and I need time. I am not sick. Mr. Bradshaw, I'm sorry you had some kind of revelation about... Okay, wait a minute, what? You had some revelation that you don't like. But unless you can tell me they're leaving within the hour, I need you back on that ship, making sure they are off my station as soon as possible. Jeremy snorted. That's not going to be. This isn't a request, Mr. Bradshaw. You are going back on that ship now. If you need me to have you escorted by security, I will arrange it. Jimmy swallowed hard. No, sir. The commander stood. Good. Have a good day. The Kelsirian standing in the ship's entrance was the smaller one with the silver fur. Hopefully she remembered him from the previous days because he didn't want to have to stand next to her waiting for Turok to escort him. He knew the way to engineering. I know you were told I wasn't coming today, he said, keeping his distance, but things changed. So I'm going to head to work. He walked by her, keeping to the wall so before she had time to protest, or protest to him. He heard her talk in her comm unit as he walked away. Without Turok with him this time, Jeremy paused at an intersection to study the symbols. I need to have Jeremy note them before. And I keep forgetting. This is a detail I keep forgetting to slip in Jeremy's point of view, which is literally why I'm going too far here. Without Turok with him this time, Jeremy paused at an intersection to study the symbols at the corner in the wall on the wall for his corridor. A door was designed on the side he came from, as well as a claw on the other side. The welder, an electrical spark, and what he thought was rolled meat. In the turn was a flag, over that a flower, a waterfall, and a stalk of grain, possibly markers of some sort, telling people on the ship what they'd find in the corridor. Not that he knew what the symbols meant, or was interested in learning. As he stepped into engineering, the work paused and they looked at him. Hid that they were leering, he was sure. He wanted to turn around and leave, but there was no safety for him on the station, not with the commander angry at him. He forced himself to ignore them, the looks he felt on him, and reach the reactor where... What the fuck did the commander expect him to do? Will the fucking thing to work? If he could, Jeremy would, so he'd never have to see a Kelsirian again. Jeremy, to recall, running in his direction, and the only thing that kept him from bolting away was how utterly disheveled the technician was, with his vest inside out. The reminder of their first meeting felt funny, but he couldn't muster the smile. Look, the only reason I'm here is because I've been ordered to fix this fucking thing. I don't want to be here, and I certainly don't want to have to deal with any one of you. Am I making myself clear? Everyone was looking at him. Some exchanged worried expression. You want to be alone? Fuck yes, Jeremy replied, relieved not to get pushback. Turok nodded. Come with me. Unsure of what he might be heading into, Jeremy followed. They headed to the stairs leading to the engineer's office, and Turok opened the door. I thought you didn't go in there. No one goes in the engineer's office other than the engineer. No one will disturb you here. Jimmy's protest died at the thought he could be completely alone. Turok, I'm sorry for what I thought. I know you aren't like them. I don't know what you mean, and it isn't important. You rest. You will be better afterward. Jeremy went to the couch that might double as a bed by how deep it was and sat, leaning against the wall, and appreciated the silence. Lost, they whispered around him. Jeremy stood in a forest of banners, and they all looked at him. Lost, they repeated, men and women's voice, but with an odd lilt to them. He was lost. He had no idea how he'd arrived here. Looking over his shoulder, he didn't see the corridor he expected to be there. You lost, a man whispered in his ear, and Jeremy stepped away into a banner with gems falling. What did I lose? He checked himself. He was missing something, but he didn't know what. Help me find it? Had he dropped it? Had it been taken from him? Where was it? What was it? The sound of his heartbeat sounded throughout the forest, almost like it was outside him. Was that what he'd lost? Looking around, he saw a woman on the other side of the clearing, golden fur and wearing the sky for a dress. She could help. Where? Only all that was there when he reached her was a banner with an eye on it. It blinked at him. Here, a woman said, a voice familiar, like his mother's, but not. The fight, a man said, and something flew by Jeremy's head. When he looked where it had to have impacted, the banner that fluttered on the breeze had an arrow on it. The fight was here, he realized. No, had been here. Lost. That same man said. A battle, the woman who had almost sounded like his mother cackled. But not the war, he replied. I didn't lose the war. I'm not done fighting. Not lost anymore, the woman cackled. The woman's cackle definitely had an unhinged feel to it. And that concludes chapter 26 of The Captain's Heart. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story, it's up on Ream Story. I should say it's ongoing on Ream Story. And if you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.